Now, this next one that I'm going to share with you is kind of, I don't know, it's a verse that took a little bit for me to study, and I want to share it with you. So this next one is be honest, but be shrewd. There is a parable in the book of Luke in chapter 16 that is very controversial to a standard person. And I'll just leave it with that, okay? Now, what's really interesting is, I'm going to read just this component, but if you actually want to read it, go to Luke 16 from 1 and on. You can just read, I think it's like the first 10 or 12 verses of that. I want to read it. It's really interesting. And so in this parable, there's a master who has a manager, and he finds out that his manager hasn't been doing a good job. And so he basically calls him out on it, and he says, hey, you know, understanding that I've heard that you've done some bad things with my, you know, what I've entrusted you with. So you're going to give an account. I'm taking everything out. So now I want you to give me a full account of everything you've done. So this manager said, wait a minute, I'm kind of screwed right now, because the reality is I'm going to be fired because I wasn't an honorable man. I'm not good with my hands. I'm not good with all these other things. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go out to all the people that we've done business with before, and I'm going to cut them a break. I'm going to say, hey, if you owe 800, give me 400 now. We'll settle accounts right now, because at least worst case, when they fire me, I will have good grace with all these people around me. And he literally, no other word to say it, he screwed his master. Like, he literally took advantage of his master. Now, would you guys agree that is bad? So I'm not condoning that, because I will shoot you guys. I'm just kidding. But the point I'm trying to make is this. Read this passage specifically to what he says. The master commended the dishonest manager because he had acted shrewdly. Now, pause for 1 minute. Isn't that a negative? Like, why in the world would you ever give anybody any props who took advantage of you? I mean, you lost money because of this guy's poor management. Why? And as I started studying it, it was really interesting. So he continued on to say, for the people of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Now, this to me sounds like a contradiction. Would you agree? It kind of does. I mean, and I kind of struggle with this verse a little bit. Like, oh, okay, maybe it was in the translation. So I went to the Greek, and I'm not going to even pretend like I know how to pronounce Greek words. So I'm going to leave it there. You can read it yourself. But here's what the word shrewd means: to act with foresight. And you see, what I found out is, even though God doesn't agree with some of the things we do, sometimes even though in the manner in which we do things, touch his heart. So, like, you know, poor little man, man in your ear. Obviously, you fell short, but what I do want to give you respect on is the fact that you thought ahead. You had foresight. You actually realized that out of the mistake you made, you were going to create a bigger mess. And so you had the foresight to make actions now that would ultimately impact you long term. And so what I want to share with you is, if that was something that even the manager and the owner, or the master, I should say, gave respect to a dishonest, as he continued, a dishonest manager, imagine what would happen if you're honest, but you're also shrewd. And so what I want to challenge you guys to do now is be shrewd, but be honest. Because imagine the reward he would have had he been honest. He actually would have been raised up and entrusted with more had he been honest. Does that make sense? And that's really the lesson to learn here, guys. Had he been an honest and shrewd manager, he would have been head over all. But he missed that blessing. But at least he got the respect that being shrewd, he covered his butt in the future. But who wants to really come back and say, hey, at least I covered my butt? Does that make sense? That's not the person you want to be. You want to be the honest and shrewd person that really takes the opportunity to the next level. So here's how it stands. Build on rock, not sand. Look at your existing work ethic. Look at your existing model, your department, whatever it is, and ask yourself, am I doing it so half, you know what, that the reality is one little storm and everything I've done falls through the cracks? Or am I building it on the right foundations? Am I applying what I'm learning here and making it a part of my lifestyle? Am I being consistent? Am I doing things with honor? Am I being shrewd? Am I having the foresight? So build on rock and not sand. Make provisions for your trip. Now, what do I mean by make provisions for your trip? It's very straightforward. How many of us, and this is me included, get excited about something and we go out to get it, and not once did we stop to say, what am I going to need when I get there? What do I need? Bandit signs? Do I need this? Do I need that? And you end up going on a trip that was supposed to be productive, but now you're being reactive and you're being unproductive because now you got to find, oh man, I didn't think of this. I didn't think of that. I can't tell you how many times I took the kids to Disney World by myself, and I didn't have the foresight to think about the things that I should bring. For example, snacks would have been nice. It would have saved me $50 every time I went in food. 2, and this was the biggest mistake, luckily I learned from it, I took my kids and I had, like with the stroller that takes 2. And no joke, this is a perfect example of what I mean by make provisions for your trips. So I go there by myself and I grab my son, I pull out this thing and he's like, Daddy, I'm ready to walk, I'm okay. That should have been code for, we're bringing this, right? But no, what does Daddy do? Okay, well, you're a big boy now, son. It's okay, let's go. I'll pick you up every now and then. Did you know that I got the worst arm workout of the world because 90% of the time he's going, Daddy, pick me up. I finally gave in and paid to have what? One of their stupid little carts to stroll them around. Why? Even though I had it, I didn't plan and make provisions for my trip. And so don't be that person that you're trying to go somewhere, you're trying to build something, but because you didn't anticipate what you need, you go out there and it actually costs you more than you would have made in the first place. Does that make sense? So if you want to be shrewd, begin to level up, think in the future, and start really having foresight. The next one is anticipate your weaknesses and strategize accordingly. Guys, this one is worth millions. Understand this. We are really strong in some areas, and in other areas, we're not so good. I'll give you a perfect example with me. I am terrible with lots and lots of details. Like for me, it's bottom line. Right? So what I need to do whenever a project comes in and has a lot of detail, I need to have the foresight, anticipate my weakness, and take the whole project and break it into bullets. Otherwise, what happens is I drop the ball every single time. If it's too much, my brain disconnects and I walk away. But that's not the way you do it. The way you do it is you have to say, okay, well, with my strength, let me break this down. This is what I know I'm good at. Let me see if somebody else can help me with this. And you start working with a team and you start using what's strong in your skills and you leverage those relationships with those around you where your weakness becomes their strength. Does that make sense? And that's the way that you become successful. And that's the reason why so many people have literally closed up their offices and have worked with us over the years because they recognize that on their own, they can't get past their weaknesses. And in order to be successful, you have to be well-rounded. And so again, I want to challenge you guys, leverage your strengths, but begin to strategize and figure out, how do I overcome my weaknesses? Because if you don't already identify what those weaknesses are, they're the ones that will kill you every single time. Every single time, I guarantee it. So already become aware of what those weaknesses are and make a plan, have a strategy to overcome those weaknesses. That's how you level up to the next level. And then I want you to adapt these words specifically. Realistic, astute, tough-minded, and shrewd. Realistic meaning, guys, a lot of times we have pie in the sky. We either dream too high or we dream too low. Be realistic. When you're pursuing your goals, when you're making a foresight and making a plan, be realistic about what you need. Be astute, tough-minded, and shrewd. Tough-minded is one thing I want to talk about, even though obviously Melissa is fixing this for the video. But for being a tough-minded individual, what I mean by that is I don't think you guys realize that life is not easy, right? And if you're setting a goal to go out there and you literally get emotional or you get any little roadblock stops you from moving forward, you will never succeed at anything. So you have to develop the foresight to know, hey, this too will pass. I can learn something from this. I'm going to keep pressing forward till we get a breakthrough. That's the kind of tough mentality that you need to have. Otherwise, what happens is you think, you get a negative feeling, you act negatively, and you ultimately get a negative result. And if you do that over and over again, that becomes a lifestyle. And so again, it's important to have a tough mindset when you're pursuing your goals. So here's a power question that we'll leave this with. Are my plans built on rock or sand? What can I plan and put into action today to overcome my obstacles and reach success? Notice how all the questions that I ask are always going to be open-ended, really pursuing for you to draw out of you the way that your strategy should be. So again, are my plans built on rock or sand? You can literally sit down and ask yourself, do I have the right foundations with my game plan? Or is there a hole in it? Am I building in the wrong place? One example might be if you're in sales, for example, if you tell me, yeah, Rick, I'm going to go sell, but I don't even know how to use my software. Well, if you're going to go out there and you're going to go follow up and source and sell, but you don't even know how to use the software that's going to track your business, you're going to fail. You're in the sand. Why? Because you can never keep up with all the competition. They're using automatic tools, task, follow-up, management. We've already proven with Yolanda that a lot of people have lost a lot of money and opportunities. Probably thousands, I'm certain thousands and thousands of dollars in opportunities lost that could have been income now because you built it on the sand, right? So if you want to be a master at it, remember, ask yourself that question, man, do I even know how to use my software? Do I know how to use my CRM? Am I using it to the best of my abilities? Am I having the foresight to know that in the future, when I sit with 50 people, somebody's got to follow up with these 50 people? So am I automating my system so that ultimately I can carry a bigger load knowing that the technology is there for me? Product is another perfect example. How can you misquote a product that we haven't changed? Well, what that tells me is you've been building on the sand. You haven't even studied. So study the product. Look through the price sheets. Learn it. If you don't understand something, ask. We have plenty of videos online that we've given you guys. Leverage those resources to make sure that when you're out there presenting, you're presenting the right product, that you understand what that product is. That's building on the rock, guys. And then, of course, what can I plan and put into action today to overcome my obstacles and reach success? Ask yourself, what can you do? The moment you say I can't, guess what happens in your brain? It shuts off and moves on. That's the way that we're built. So you can't ask yourself a question that brings you down. You got to ask yourself, what can I do right now? What can I do to start planning? What can I do to start doing so that I can reach the next level? If you don't ask yourself those questions, I guarantee you, you will fail. And so with that said, guys, I'm going to finish it up with this, and we're going to open it up with any Q&A questions regarding these steps that we've had so far. So let's begin with any questions real quick. Any comments, questions?